Hello, I'm Captain Christopher Sage, and the purpose of this video is to demonstrate the 3899 data form that you can use within TRAC2ES to upload and create PMRs from Excel templates. So first and foremost, I'm going to tell you a little bit of the benefits of why this is a useful feature of the software. The most important thing that you'll immediately realize is that you can download and have multiple people working on multiple PMRs or patient movement records for multiple patients at the same time, and you're not limited to the number of TRAC2ES accounts that you have. This serves a very important benefit because you can get other people involved with creating these Excel templates that you can have a single user upload, and you can create multiple PMRs in a very, very quick way that saves a lot of time. So with that, I'll just go ahead and demonstrate where you can get the template. If you log into the TRAC2ES application, you hit the Documents tab. Once you are there, you can scroll down and find the 3899 data form. You're going to want to click on that and go ahead and save it to your desktop. Once that is downloaded and saved, you're going to want to go ahead and find that template that you've saved and open it up. It'll download as a blank template. The one that I'm actually opening right now has some information pre-populated, and that is that way because I want to demonstrate what an actual completed form looks like. So you will notice that there's some nomenclature to review before we get started in the data form, and that nomenclature is denoted by the little red asterisks here. As you can see, if a field has a little red asterisk, it means it is required on import. Otherwise, in other words, if that field is blank, it will not validate, it will cause an error. Also, the little black arrows that are pointing down represent fields that have a drop-down or pick list, and those exist to limit the possibilities or input that you can put in there to specific choices, and that's helpful to reduce the amount of errors. Also, lastly, you will notice these little red arrows. Those are denoting actual tips or helpful hints that you can hover over and get information about that field. Once you've got your data form open, you just basically begin by entering the patient's name, their social security number or ID, whether it's a social security number or some other form of identification, basic information about the patient, age, the date of birth, male, female, and their unit phone number, etc., etc. Also, you're going to have information about the originating MTF. This is the code for your facility, as well as where that patient is going. That's the destination field. You're going to want to obtain this information from the TRAC2ES application. You're going to need to look up these codes. So if I'm going from Cobble to Launchstool, I'm going to need to look up those values and get that information from the actual TRAC2ES application. And you can do that actually within the application. If you go into MTF and do a query and you search on Cobble or Launchstool, you can see what those codes are. The codes get entered as the codes and not the actual name, so just something to bear in mind. Also, another common question or issue is the way that the dates are entered. This form utilizes a Julian date, year, and time format. So as you see right here, this is the format that is required for it to successfully process a date. So this represents the 104 Julian date in year 2020, and the time is 0001. So you're going to want to enter in that format. Also, there's information about a point of contact at both locations, whether attendants are required, whether they're an ambulatory or litter patient, any attendants' names and classification, and some of the other information, whether CCAT team is necessary, any altitude restrictions. Again, you're going to want to put as much information as you can about that patient within this form, because the more that you enter at this stage before you import, the less you have to identify and fix later after the PMR's been created. There's also information about the attending physician, the accepting physician, name, email address, contact information. The key here is putting as much information in as possible, so that way we can, TPMRC and all providers downstream can contact and reach out to the providers of this patient who have information about them. Also, there's insurance information. You want to make sure you can get that entered if it applies. Also, there's diagnosis codes. Similar to the MTF codes, you're going to have to look up these these diagnosis codes within traces is one way to do it. So you're going to need to look up the diagnosis and import that, or get those codes, write them down, and populate them into the spreadsheet. Also, there's other clinical information, any allergies or their labs or any of the clinical issues, vital signs, all that information. If you have that, great, put it in there. If you don't, you can upload this template blank, but you may need to eventually put those vital signs in there once they've been gathered. Also, you're going to want to put a lot of information in about the clinical history and transfer summary. Any information that needs to be put into the PMR needs to be in that field. Also, there's information about any special equipment that's needed, and a lot of these are pick lists, so any of these things are yes or no values. And then there's also settings. If you need a ventilator, it's going to ask what the settings need to be, for instance, as an example, or any of the other special equipment. Also, there's information about medications, frequency, dose, name of medication. You're going to want to enter that in there as well for anything as it applies to the patient. And then lastly, there's a couple of other fields here that you can put on any other information or info that's pertinent to the patient. So once you've got that done, you're going to want to save your PMR and save it to a location that you can find. Once you're happy and satisfied that you've got as much information that you have on the patient entered into this template, you can go ahead and close it and navigate back to traces. Now, once you're in traces, you're going to go into the production environment. So you will see patient movement up here instead of exercise. I'm in the exercise traces environment so that I don't actually create a live PIMR in the live system. So you're going to want to be in the patient movement environment, but just for purposes of this video, this is the actual traces exercise environment. So once you log into traces, the navigation is pretty simple. You're going to go to the exercise tab, and you will navigate to the PMR tab once it opens. Okay, so once you are at traces actually, once you've actually loaded the traces application, you're going to want to go to PMR, and you're going to want to go to import 3899 data. And obviously you will see immediately that there are some steps. We're going to review those very, very quickly. Okay, so first step is we're going to go ahead and select a valid 3899 data form. This is the step where we find the Excel template that we've filled out, and we will actually import that. And then the step two is that there will be some validation ran, and if there is any errors present, we'll need to correct those. So we're going to demonstrate some of that within the video once we get into that step. And then once it is been past the validation, you will see that we will be able to hit continue, and it will create a draft PMR record and traces. So I'm going to go ahead and select that template that we just uploaded, or that we just filled out. And what's going to happen is we've navigated out to the file, and now it's asking us just to confirm that our codes represent the location that we actually intend for our originating MTF. So I'm going to hit OK. Here is the value of that code from the destination, and that's valid and correct. And then you're also going to see a pop-up for the primary and secondary diagnosis. So it's going to look up that code, and you just want to verify that this is the correct diagnosis codes that you want to use for the patient. Now you're going to see that this is going to error out, because one of the last steps is that you're going to see that it's going to check if there is a duplicate PMR within the traces database already. So I've already uploaded this patient, and it's exactly the same information. I did that so I could demonstrate what an error would look like. So you're going to want to correct that information and start the process over. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so as you can see, we got a duplicate error PMR. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go back to our template, and we're going to modify it. So we're going to change the name to Joseph Snuffy, or maybe Jose Snuffy. And we will change their social security number to a different social security number. And we're going to go ahead and hit save. We're just going to go back and do that exact same process in traces again. Now that we've changed the patient identification, that should alleviate that error that we see with the duplicate PIMR. So same process, we're going to hit browse, we're going to hit and select that $38.99. It's going to make us validate the originating and destination MTF codes as well as the primary and secondary diagnosis. And once it has done that, of course, you would want to make sure that that information is correct and appropriate. You can see that it progresses down and there were no duplicate PMRs found and there are no errors or warnings. So at that stage, you can hit continue, and what it will do is it'll give you this little green success that the PMR was created successfully, and now you can open that PMR via the link. And as you can see, you can go in and update or add or modify any of the information that you uploaded into the form. Anything that you may have not put in there, you can go in and put your clinical information, any labs, subsequent labs that were taken, or anything about the patient that you didn't have at the time you uploaded it. You can very quickly and easily save or enter into it and have that information ready to go. So when you're ready to submit this thing to TPMRC, you can have it waiting in draft status, and when you're ready to submit, you would just hit submit PMR, and now you can see that the current state has been submitted. So that'll go to TPMRC. They will review the information. If they have any problems or issues, they will error it out back to you and you'll have to correct it. But that's the same process as if you just created the PMR from scratch. So I hope you found this video useful. You can contact me anytime if you have questions. My email is christopher.l.sage.mil@mail.mil. So reach out to me with any questions you have. I hope you found this video useful. I think you will agree that this functionality is tremendously useful and will save you a lot of time. So it's just a really, really useful and handy way to upload PIMRs quickly. So I hope it works out for you. Good luck, and we'll see you out in the system. Thanks.